Welcome back. Welcome back. As you can hear my voice already, my voice is a mess, but welcome back. Welcome back to From the Shed End. If you're new, as always, please make sure you subscribe. You hit that subscribe button straight away. It's been a couple of days, a couple of intense, interesting days in and amongst football. But as I said, the Linktree link is in the description. Chelsea got a 1-0 win against Benfica, which we'll talk about. Jamie Gittens, we need to talk about Jamie Gittens as well. We need to talk about the sporting directors. We need to talk about Enzo Fernandez, João Pedro, Moises Caicedo. We need to talk about Enzo Maresca, who apparently has a review at the end of this season. And we got to look forward to Liverpool. We got to look ahead to Liverpool. Saturday evening, kick-off against the champions of the Premier League, who have their own injury worries to concern themselves with. But as I said, YouTube look like they're trying to sabotage a lot of people's accounts right now. So if you're new and you're part of this live stream, hit that link now down below, first of all. And then secondly, like this video and also hit the subscribe button as well. Make sure you do all of those things before you leave this video, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. I want to jump straight into it. And I want to talk about the one player that concerns me a lot at the moment, and it is going to be Jamie Gittens, because I think, for me personally, I'm not worried, but I'm concerned. And I think my concerns are valid. I think my concerns are well within their rights. We've got to see, I mean, this sums it up for me. This pitch down here sums everything up. This sums up everything I'm thinking right now. And I've been saying this for the last 2 or 3 live streams that we've done, but this sums up everything for me. Jamie Gittens feels like a regen, a 2.0 of Noni Madueke. All the potential, all the skill, quick with your feet, but you can't get your head up and you can't make the final decision. You can't make the right pass. Now, we have to give Jamie Gittens a bit of a pass. The stats don't look well in terms of 0 goals, 0 assists. He played 6 matches. And he doesn't really look like he's been able to impact anything. Now, caveating that as well, let's be fair to him. Now, he's played, as you can see here, he was on the bench for the Brighton game, United game. He came off the first game, Crystal Palace. He came on with only 13 minutes to go against West Ham. He came on with 22 minutes to go against Fulham. And he was just he came off, just after the halftime break against Brentford. Now, with that in mind as well, we have to be honest and say he hasn't really been given a run of games. He hasn't started a game from the very offset and played 90 minutes. So I think we have to caveat a lot of that into it. But the moments that he is getting and the opportunities that he's getting, and for the price that we paid for him, we've got to see more. We've got to see more, because I know he hasn't started a game for us. He hasn't played 90 minutes in the Premier League for us, but he has to do more when he's given opportunity, because he gets into the right spaces. And we can't pretend that there aren't other players that are coming off the bench and impacting games for other clubs. There's a handful of them. So with Gittens, I need to see more. I need to see more. You're creeping into 007 territory. We don't want that for you. We don't. It's a massive, massive commitment when you're playing in the Bundesliga and you're looking very sharp, you're looking well, you can do what you want, you got a bit more time on the ball. When you come to the Premier League, you have to step your game up. You have to step your game up. And I said on the weekend, we haven't even played anyone yet that should really cause us any damage. Any damage in the Premier League. We haven't played anyone. Saturday is really our first test of what our season's going to look like. Liverpool, even with the Ekitike and Alisson injuries, they still have enough on the pitch. They still have an Alexander Isak. They still have a Cody Gakpo. They still have a Mo Salah. They still have Mamadashvili in goal. They've got Kirkez and Frimpong. They've got Slobosly, Gravenberg in the midfield, McAllister. This is not a weakened, don't get overshadowed by the 2 injuries. They've still got a good squad. And this is our first real test. Now, our team is dropping like flies. Our injuries are starting to pile up very, very quickly. And someone like Jamie Gittens, for me now, has to show why they can improve our squad. Simple as that. They've got to show that they can improve the squad. They've got to. It's worse. I'm starting to question, does Maresca even favour his player? Because for him not to have got on the pitch when we played, I think, Manchester United and Brighton, and to not be playing against Bayern Munich, a team, I remember saying at the time when I was predicting my lineup for the game, for him not to even get any minutes against a team that he's probably more familiar with than any of those players, opening game of the Champions League group stage for us, for him not to get any minutes whatsoever, not even a run out for 10 minutes. I'm starting to think, is this the manager going against the sporting directors, going against the ownership and saying, actually, these players that you're bringing in are not for me? He only got half an hour against Benfica on Tuesday night and was unable to impact the game. He was unable to impact the game. And this is my worry with someone like Gittens. Is he going to go down the same road as Noni Madueke, where we don't see enough of him? We don't get to see what he's about. We're struggling to find his best qualities. That's my worry with him. I think, do we end up selling him? Do we end up selling him in a year or two and we try and recover some of the money? Me personally, I think we need to give him a run of games. We need to show what he can do. If it is that we bring him in and he's not good enough, he looks very raw, but he's got to be given a run of games. There's no point bringing him on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes here and there, and then we're starting to criticize him because he's not being given a run of games. He hasn't got a run of games where he's fully focused on just consistently playing good football for us. The same happened to Mykhailo Mudryk. If you remember, he was in and out of the team, and then obviously the ban came. The same for Sterling. Sterling wasn't really given a full run of games. João Felix was not given a full run of games. Christopher Nkunku was not given a full run of games. Noni Madueke was in and out of the team, but I'd say he was probably the more the favoured player on the right-hand side for us. So we have to question, is this a Maresca player? Did Maresca want Jamie Gittens? Did he not want him? Because at the moment, it's looking very, very clear to me that he's struggling. He's struggling on the ball. He's struggling with his movement. He's struggling with his final decision-making. He's struggling to impact a game off the bench. When he starts the game, he doesn't really impact it. He gets subbed off. So he's not really impacting the game. He's not impacting the game at all. That's the worry for me. That's the worry when I look at the squad that we've got now. You don't have time to hope that these players become better players. We don't have the luxury of time at the moment because the manager, we'll talk about him in a minute, but he's under pressure. And I see a little bit of why, and I also don't see why, because Maresca is at fault for some things. He's at fault for some things. What I will say is he's not at fault for everything. He's not at fault for everything. There's certain things that Maresca can change. He can make the in-game tactics better. He can set the team up to play better football from the offset. He can see games out. He can be adaptable when we go down to 10 men. Those things are on the manager. But the sporting directors also, for me, have to be reviewed. The sporting directors have to be reviewed. They should be reviewed because they're the ones choosing the manager. They're the ones bringing in some of these players or all of these players. They have to be reviewed just as much. Now, let's go back to Tuesday night. As I just mentioned, Jamie Gittens got a run a game, a bit of run a game, but he didn't do enough. I think that's what the ultimate thing is for us. He didn't do enough. Now, one thing I want to point out in this game on Tuesday was, and I said this the other day, is that we need to control the game better. Jose Mourinho set his team up essentially to try and hit us on a counter-attack. He set us up to defend, set his team up to defend really well. They were poor. And I think we were able to exploit that down their right hand side, our left hand side with Cucurella and Garnacho, who was able to get a lot of space, arguably, and well deserved man of the match performance. But this is where I'm talking about Maresca. This is a problem. Not because of the player, but because you're asking Tariq George, who we know is not good at a number 9. He's not good at playing number 9. And if you come up against Napoli, you come up against Atalanta or Barcelona in a couple of weeks, you just can't play Tariq George as a 9. We came up against a Benfica team, that clearly are still adapting to Mourinho's style of play and how he wants his team to be set up. But you could easily see a lot of the play for us. We needed to make sure he came down that left-hand side. We needed to make sure Garnacho, who was the creative player to get the goal in terms of the own goal from Rios, but you could see how important it was for us to play that ball down the left side. 56% possession of the ball, 8 shots, 3 on target. It could have been better. But my point is that we didn't have someone good enough in the attacking role, in the number 9 role, to penetrate that box, to make it effective. We didn't have anyone. That's the concern. That's the concern for me. When you're playing against a team like Benfica, you get away with it because it's Benfica and because you were expected to beat them at home. You expected to beat them, but even the bench on Tuesday night wasn't the best. Even the bench wasn't that good. I mean, look at that for a bench. I mean, no disrespect to Reggie Walsh. You got 2 goalkeepers and 4 outfield players. Those are the ones that came on. Esteval, Gittens, João Pedro, Achiampong, and Reece James. But apart from those 5 that came on, look what else we had. We didn't have any other choices on the bench. Okay, maybe Lavia, but he's coming back from injury. We're going to talk about Mark Guiu in a minute as to why he's not playing for us at the moment. João Heto, who I thought had a really good game at the last weekend, just gone. But you look at the players that come on. You're bringing on 2 2 right backs. You bring on Esteval, and then João Pedro, who was ineffective, looked, like he got, I don't know if he got a grilling by Maresca before he came on, but those 2 yellows, although the second yellow was very harsh, I don't think it was a second yellow in my opinion, but he gets sent off. He now misses the next game in the Champions League for us. But it just goes to show we don't have that. We spoke about it on here not too long ago. We don't have quality in depth at this football club. We don't have quality in depth at this football club because you can't have that much spent on a football club. And essentially you're telling me that the only players that we can play up front is Tariq George. The only player we can play up front is Tariq George. That's impossible. That's impossible. That's impossible. We should have much more better options. Much more better options than Tariq George. And this is not me criticizing Tariq George. But he's being asked to do a job that he's clearly not capable of doing. He's clearly not capable of playing that role. So I'm not trying to badmouth him or put him down. I think he's a very good player. I think Tariq George is, and I said this last season, I think he's a very good player that we can utilize off the left-hand side of an attack. He looks very comfortable in the Conference League, but he has to step his game up. You have to step, you're playing in the Champions League now. You're not playing against Shamrock Rovers and Noah FC and other teams in the Conference. You're playing against some of the best teams in Europe. You're playing against some of the best teams in Europe. That's my worry. I think the fact that we spent so much money, that's the team that we're relying on to get us over the line. That's the team that we're relying on to get us over the line. With Buonanotte in the 10, I get you need to squad rotate, but you're rotating, and you can't factor in injuries. But I want to show you something. Where's it gone? Right, let's bring this up. I want to show you a heat map of Tariq George and let you guys understand, make your own judgment as well on how bad Tariq George was. And again, this is not we're not criticizing Tariq George. No one out here is criticizing Tariq George. Well, I don't think anyone should be criticizing Tariq George. He had one shot, Tariq George. 15 touches during his time on the pitch. That was in 45 minutes. His first touch in the opposition penalty came in the 45th minute. And here we go. This is what I'm trying to explain. There's all his touches. There's his heat map. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. I don't want to criticize him too much because I think he's been made out to be the scapegoat. But at the same time as well, if you're playing for a club that clearly rates you, they clearly still rate you highly enough. You were nearly out the door on transfer deadline day, 22 million to Fulham. And somehow you're still in with a shout to start games. So my only question can be, did the club only want to get rid of Tariq George because it knew it was going to be pure profit on the books, and they actually they didn't care whether he stays or whether he goes. If he goes, it's pure profit. If he stays, they can play him. So I don't know. Are we only playing him because we want to keep him fresh and we want to make sure that he does leave either in the January window or in the summer? So are we just keeping him fresh and keeping him in the shop window, so to speak, so that when clubs do want to try and buy someone, they've got enough understanding of what the player is and what he's like, and they can see how well he plays or what he's good at, his best attributes. So is that why we're playing him? But it's a concern that we're playing him as our striker. For me, it's a concern because we've seen it a couple of times now, and I said it on here before. I don't understand why. I don't understand why we're not utilizing João Pedro in that role a bit more, why we're not putting Pedro Neto there a little bit more. These are options. These are options that we've got. We sold Nicholas Jackson. We let Nkunku leave the club. It's interesting. I want to go back to something that it says on here though as well, because this was interesting reading this article on The Athletic. During the 2004-2005 season, we had Didier Drogba, Ida Gudjohnsen, and Kesman. Hernan Crespo was also brought in to that trio later in the 2005-2006 season. The following campaign, we had Andrei Shevchenko, Solomon Kalou, who also came in to work with Didier Drogba. At the beginning of his second spell in 23-2014, this is under Jose Mourinho, we had Samuel Eto'o, Fernando Torres, and Demba Ba. And then in his last season, Diego Costa, Loic Remy, and Didier Drogba. That is how you're able to rest a player. You rest one of your top players, you rest Diego Costa, you bring in Loic Remy or Didier Drogba. Now, the goal thing quality is not that big of a drop, but when you're taking out João Pedro or you're taking out I've been saying it for so long, we can't even compare these. I mean, these three names here, Torres, Eto'o, and Demba Ba. We should probably call all three of them now and see what they're doing. And see if they want to run out this season. Because I think all three of them are probably better than the three that we've currently got in Marc Guiu, João Pedro, and Liam Delap. I think they're the best three that we've got in our attacking areas currently. So Samuel Eto'o, Fernando Torres, Demba Ba would probably do a better job than those now. Imagine Diego Costa, Loic Remy, and Drogba as your front three. Drop Bogga Johnson and let's say Crespo, because Crespo is a bit more effective than Kesman. But even in those seasons, you had so many different options, so many different players that you could bring in. It was so much better. Now we're struggling to, we're putting a left winger in a number 9 role on his own, isolated. Not good enough. It's not good enough. And I'll go as far as to say this. Allowing Armando Broja, Christopher Nkunku, David Datro Fofana, all to leave the football club before you secured at least another striker, another top striker. I don't mean Liam Delap, who I think will go on to be a good player, impact our season in some capacity this season. And I'm not saying João Pedro hasn't started well. And we have got Mojeca in the under the development squad. I get it, great. But he's not good enough to start in our lineup. We know that. He can bang goals in the development squad and for the under 17s, 19s for England, whatever. Great. But to allow Christopher Nkunku, Armando Broja, and David Datro Fofana, and let me say this before I carry on, none of those were showing signs that they were good enough to start for Chelsea. The difference is there was another option. There was another outlet. This could have been the season we see the best out of Christopher Nkunku. This could have been a season where you give Armando Broja that one opportunity to see what he can do. Is he a better option than Tariq George? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, he is. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say David Datro Fofana is a better option than Tariq George. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say Pedro Neto is a better option than Tariq George at number 9. That is not a criticism of Tariq George. That is just how we are at the moment. Nicholas Jackson, is he a better option than Tariq George? Yes, he is. So you have to start questioning not the manager, but you have to start questioning the decisions made above the manager's head. Who's calling the shots upstairs? Whoever that is, they've got to be held accountable just as much as the manager. Yes, the manager has a job to do. Yes, he's meant to pick the right squad. Yes, he's meant to get things right on the pitch. Yes, he must have a say in transfers and all the rest of it. I'm not disputing that at all. But we can't go on and continue to scrutinize the manager, put the manager under pressure. And let's be honest, he's got a 67% win rate. His record at Chelsea is actually brilliant for a manager that's been in the managerial job at Leicester for 1 year. It's his second season as Chelsea manager. He's 3 years as the main guy at a club. And that's and in that space of time, he's got a club promoted from the Championship. He's won the Conference League. He's won the Club World Cup. And he got the objective of getting Chelsea back into the top 4 last season, which was the ultimate objective for the club. So let's not panic about the manager. Has he bottled games? Can he do better in the games? 110% he can. He knows he can. I'm sure he knows he can. I'm sure he knows he can do better in games. I'm sure he looks at some of the games that we've played in and he probably thinks, I made a mistake there. In fact, I think he came out the other day before the Benfica game and said that. He said he can manage games better. He's learning still. He's still learning. He said all this. Can he do better? 100% he can. He knows he can. But he's got to learn quick. Because at Chelsea, you don't get time. We know that as fans. He'll know that as the manager. He only has to go and look at the previous 3 managers. They weren't given time. You can go back and look at Roman's time here. He didn't give managers that much time. He sacked managers for a lot less than that. So like I said on Saturday, like I said the last weekend and then last week, I don't want to see Maresca sacked from this football club. But what I do need to see from him is a bit more fight. A bit more fight from him. We need to see a bit more fight from him. Let's move on. Let's talk about some injury news. As we do nearly every time we do a live stream, there's more injury news because now we've got the news that Moises Caicedo, João Pedro, Enzo Fernandez are playing through pain at the moment whilst nursing injuries. And I'm going to be honest, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't shock me. It's clear. It's obvious. It's obvious. I said this before about Enzo. He didn't look. In fact, I even said it on Tuesday evening in a WhatsApp. Caicedo looked like he's struggling with something. He's struggling with something. We know that João Pedro, before he came back from international break, he didn't look right. Even on his last international spell earlier last month, he didn't look right then. But this is where Enzo has to start trusting some of the squad that he's now responsible for managing and coaching. He's got to make sure that he's getting the best out of that squad. Because if he doesn't, there's going to be a lot of conversations. There's going to be a lot of conversations. Now, this is also interesting. It says here that Enzo Maresca is facing an end of season review. Now, I want to stop there already because that happens in every football club. This is not a one-off thing, an anomaly. This isn't because it's Chelsea. This happens in every football club. This happens in most companies, most businesses. You'll have an end-of-year review. You'll see how you've got on. If you've done well, you've done well. If you haven't, you haven't. This is what it is. But it says here that Enzo Maresca is facing an end-of-season review into his future as Chelsea head coach, having been told at his appointments that he would be given at least 2 years before an examination of his performance. So I don't think there should be too many alarm bells ringing. I don't think so personally. I think, if I'm being honest, I think he's got nothing to worry about. I don't think he's got anything to worry about. I think he's a manager that is still learning, as he said. But I don't know. I don't know what people want. I don't know what people want from this. What people want from this situation. You sack him, you press restart on the button again, and then before you know it, you're back at square one. You're selling players that Maresca potentially wanted in. Another manager comes in, they might have a different style of play. What do people want from this? What do people want? Do people want him to stay? Do people want him to go? Are people giving up on him? Personally, for me, if I'm being honest, I think he needs to be given sufficient time. I think he needs to be given sufficient time to be able to, not even to turn things around, because what's like I just said, his record at Chelsea so far is actually decent. So what is it people are wanting from him? What do people want to see? I don't know what people want from Maresca. Apart from the things I've named and listed out before, the in-game management, those sort of things, we want to see more of that, of course. But in terms of him actually performing and doing well, what do people want? What do people want? Because injuries have played a massive part this season. The Sanchez sending off for me was just a crazy sending off. That didn't help. But then we had that the red card came against where he served the ban against Lincoln, so it didn't really impact the season. Chalobah's last week was just a crazy moment from Chalobah, but the injuries haven't helped. The Club World Cup, winning that has now come at a cost of a price of not potentially being able to manage players' minutes in the right way. So I don't know what people want. What do people want from this? What do people want? That's what I want to know. Where do people decide that they want to bring in another manager? Who's that manager? Who is the manager people want to see coming through the door if it's not Enzo Maresca? Because I'll tell you something. I saw a lot of people talking about Oliver Glasner, who plays with a back five. Can you imagine us playing a back five with our current centre-backs? We haven't even got 2 good centre-backs, let alone 3 to put out every week. The grass isn't always greener. When you go out and get these other managers, the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes you just need to be patient. I spoke about Gittens at the very start of this. We have to be patient with Jamie Gittens. We have to start playing. If we want Tariq George to be part of this football club, play him in his natural position. Don't play him as a number 9. Start managing minutes of some of the players. Enzo, Moises Caicedo. Start managing the minutes of the players properly. Bring in Lavia. Let's bring those players in. Let's bring them in. Because if something has to change at this football club. Because if it doesn't, then of course, and results continue to go in the way that they have been of recent times, too many draws, losses, all the rest of it, then of course, yes, it doesn't look good for Maresca. It doesn't look good for Maresca. I want to talk about Marc Guiu. I was asked about him a lot last week after I did a couple of recordings. I want to give my assessment of what I think with Marc Guiu, because I think it's unfortunate for him. The Athletic reported, as part of that Athletic report that I put up earlier, they've come out and said basically Marc Guiu, who is yet to play any minutes for the club, appearing for Chelsea would mean he could not be loaned out again in January because you cannot play for more than 2 clubs in a single campaign. That surely, no, it's not ideal for the player's development. Now, I'll be honest, I think with Marc Guiu, I think that Athletic article is spot on. I think it's spot on. I think the thing with Marc Guiu is that he was only brought back in essentially to cover. The only thing I think he was brought in to cover was the fact that we'd lost Liam Delap to the injury, and it was cover for João Pedro. We knew that Nicholas Jackson was going to eventually get his move to Bayern Munich. If we're being honest, we should have been hell-bent on that loan move not going through. We should have demanded that Jackson came back. And if he wanted the move in January, he gets that move in January, or he plays out another season here. The same just happened to Marc Guehi at Crystal Palace. So it can be done. It can be done. We should have actually been a bit more stubborn and said, actually, he's still our player. We want Nicholas Jackson back, rather than bring back Marc Guehi, who it looks like he's not going to be playing any football for us. Now, to sum things up, Marc Guehi has played for Sunderland already this season. If he was to play for us, it means that he can't get loaned out somewhere else. Now, a lot of people mentioned again to me earlier this week, it'd be Strasbourg that he'd potentially go to. That theoretically can't, if I'm not mistaken, can't happen because they already have 3 of our players, I think, on loan already. So it wouldn't be there. Obviously, Enigma could come in to our squad, who's been playing for Strasbourg this season. There's an option to do that, but it still would mean a permanent sale to Strasbourg for Marc Guehi should they want to buy him or have him in their team. But I do think he'll be loaned out. And I think Chelsea do not want to run the risk of potentially trying to bring in a striker in the winter window. And then you've got Marc Guehi that can't play anywhere, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Big up Brian in the chat. We can't play Tariq George up top. I'm sick of this. I agree. I think for me, Pedro Neto, anybody, Pedro Neto, João Pedro are the 2 obvious ones. But then maybe you go look at someone, like I said, Moeka in the development squad. I'd rather see him. Someone who's just got a natural striker's instinct up front. Tariq George just does cardio. When you put him up front, he's just running. He's just collecting mileage. He's not doing anything. He's not impacting the game. I think the one shot he did have, he took it. He wasn't even set up for the shot. He just took it with his right, but he was almost facing away from goal. He got tackled while he was taking the shot. He just didn't. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. So it's a shame for Marc Guehi, because there's a question to say, why bring him back? If you know you're not going to play him and he literally is here. I feel like Marc Guehi is literally here. If Tariq George picks up an injury today, and then tomorrow they go for a training session and João Pedro picks up an injury, and we physically have no one else, and Pedro Neto is also injured or picks up a cold and he can't play, and we physically have no one else to play as a striker, I think even then there'd be question marks about whether Mark Guiu gets a run out. But he'd have to. He'd have to get a run out. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why disrupt his development when he could have been playing for Sunderland? And people are saying, well, he wouldn't be playing week in, week out, but he'd be playing. He'd be playing minutes. He'd have played so much more minutes than he has already not played at Chelsea so far. And that's my worry. That's my concern. That's my concern. That's my concern. Now, if he does end up leaving in January, fair play. But one game for Chelsea triggers a lot of things, which means it would have to be a permanent sale in January to somewhere. Even if he kicks a football for us. So I think Maresca, they probably made a bad... I mean, again, I go back to the sporting directors. We're talking about reviewing Enzo, but the sporting directors have sanctioned a lot of this transfer activity that we're seeing. The fact that Mark Guiu was even allowed to go to Sunderland before we'd even found out the replacements or someone that we wanted to bring in. The fact that Christopher Nkunku was allowed to leave. The fact that Nicholas Jackson was allowed to leave. The fact that we let João Felix leave. All these players. The fact that we knew that Raheem Sterling was going to be forming part of that bomb squad, regardless of who came in or came out of that club. The fact that we knew that Mykhailo Mudryk was going to potentially be banned. The fact we brought in Garnacho, Buonanotte, Gittens, who theoretically could all play on that left side. The fact that we chased Xavi Simons for so long, only for him to end up at Tottenham. The fact that we did exactly the same thing for Mike Maignan and ended up with Sanchez and Petrovic still as the goalkeepers. The fact we don't have an experienced quality centre-back in our team. For me, we can quiz Maresca about tactics, in-game management, and all those sort of things. But the wider picture is the sporting directors. The sporting directors have so much to account for. So many things that they should have done, they've done. I mean, there's two things to look at here. So from a business, a point of view from a business, they've actually done all right. They've actually done all right. They've done exactly what Blueco wanted them to do. And that's to make money for the football club. That's to make money for the football club. That's all it is. Get money in for the football club and generate money. They've done that. They're not even that concerned. I mean, we're going into October. This is our second season on the bounce. No front of shirt sponsor. And I still don't hear anything about that. Now, I know that's not the sporting directors, that's someone in commercial that's responsible for that. But it just shows you they're not even that concerned by that. They're just playing on without a front of shirt sponsor. But the money side, the business side of things must be working very well for the football club. And pockets are being filled up. But the results on the pitches and the players that have been brought in and the recruitment is a bigger problem at this football club than anything else. And then you could sack Maresca and you could go and get Antonio Conte, you could go and get Zinedine Zidane, you could go and get anyone. You could go and get one of the best managers right now. You could go from Jurgen Klopp and see if he wants to come and have a little trip to London for a couple of years. You could go and get him. And I think he comes up with the same problems that Enzo Maresca is finding himself having. Having to run certain players into the ground because we just haven't recruited well. I go back to the Buonanotte deal. I don't think it's a bad player, but to not have an obligation or mandatory or option to buy in this loan is mad. It's mental. It's mental. To sell Noni Madueke for whatever we sold him for, to bring in Jamie Gittens, who looks very much like a carbon copy of Noni Madueke, is not good business. To go and get Garnacho, who you just had Jadon Sancho and had to pay 5 million to get out that contract. And now you've brought in Garnacho, who plays okay. But again, was he priority? Was he top priority for us in this? He was never going to be a top priority player. Goalkeeper, centre-back. That's all we needed. And at a push, if you would go and get a Gyökeres or a Shesko or an Osserman or someone like that, then of course you go and get them. But if it can't be done, at least sort one of those top priority. At least get your goalkeeper in. At least go and get Donnarumma. Go and get him. I'm sure someone said to me he's 20, 23, 24, 25. Donnarumma. That's a goalkeeper you can have for 10 years at your club. 10 years of goalkeeping at that level. A goalkeeper like Donnarumma saves you 2 or 3 games a season. Probably more. He probably saves you 5, 6 games a season. And they're the differences. When you want to go and push for trophies or you want to try and compete in the Premier League, you've got to have someone solid in your sticks. You have to have a top goalkeeper. You have to have a top goalkeeper. Big up, Daniel. Big up. Appreciate the subscription as well. Appreciate that. But yeah, we've got to get things sorted. We've got to get it sorted because a lot of the focus is on Maresca. And again, I'm not saying he shouldn't be at fault or his in-game management. Go down to 10 men. You should be able to manage those games. You shouldn't go down to 10 men and still lose 3-1. When you're bringing on defenders, you're taking off attackers and you're bringing on defenders and you still lose the game. It just shows an inexperience in that department. But he should have that. He's managed at Leicester, his second season at Chelsea. He hasn't just walked off the streets and got these managerial jobs. So I think Maresca has a lot of work to do, but the sporting directors, if he goes, if Maresca's sacked, these sporting directors should not be in charge of the next manager that comes in. They should not be, because they've failed with Potter, with Maurizio Pochettino. They failed. And if we sack Maresca now, who do we go and get? When he's got a 67 win percentage, he's got 2 trophies under his belt already, he's got top 4. You can't keep pressing reset on a project that's you can only press reset on a project when it's well organized, it's structured, and the manager coming in, it doesn't disrupt too many things. If we go and sack Maresca now, when we know downstairs the house is not organized properly, so all the things upstairs are not organized properly, if we go and sack him now, you're expecting a new manager to come through the door and sort that mess out. If everything's organized and it's all structured and you've got the right players and you've got the right profile of players and you've got certain players that can adapt and play for different styles of play, sacking your manager is not even a problem, because you can bring another manager in, you can ask that player to do something completely different and they can do it. Whereas we're so structured in this 4-2-3-1, I think if we change things to the point where it's drastically changed, I'm talking 5 at the back, I'm talking a 4-3-3 consistently, which I'd love to see. I'd love to see 3 midfield and overload and dominate the possession of the football. But until then, I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens at all. Daniel's in the chat saying, I've lost faith with the sporting directors and recruitment was poor in the summer, not fixing the issues. And that's the problem. And I'll be honest, a lot of Chelsea fans, maybe myself to an extent, was happy to see, Esteval, obviously we signed them the season before, but see him come through the door. To see João Pedro come through the door, thought, okay, someone who's got a bit of understanding about the Premier League. Even to see Liam Delap come through the door, thought, right, a target man. And he still might be good. But then it went downhill. Because then you're getting rid of Jackson. You're getting rid of Nkunku. You're getting rid of João Felix. You bring in Gittens for Noni Madueke. You bring in Garnacho. You spend weeks and weeks and weeks trying to bring in Xavi Simons, who told you, I'm not playing for this club because I want you to sign me. For him to only end up at Tottenham is crazy. Mike Maignan, that deal was so close, it should have happened. So for those things not to happen in the summer, and for our squad to be in a position where we're having to play Tariq George, no disrespect to him, but to play him as the number 9 in a Champions League game is worrying. It's worrying. It's worrying. And I don't think many people can see the issues with that. That's the worrying bit. For me, the focus has to be on the sporting directors. not the manager. Not the manager. Yeah, I agree. Daniel's hit the money on the nail on the head. If Enzo Maresca gets sacked, sporting director should get fired and they're P45 for Chelsea. And the worrying thing is they've all got new contracts. The sporting directors are all, like I said, the sporting directors are doing exactly what the ownership want them to do, and that's to generate revenue, sell players for profit. You buy in players for younger players for lesser amounts. You sell them on for profit. So that model of buying to sell is working. So it generates the money. It balances the books. It helps the club grow in terms of financial revenue. The problem is we're now seeing the cracks appear greater on the pitch because of it. So the current team is facing a lot of issues because we're not recruiting in the way that Liverpool recruit. Although that's a very bad example at the moment based on their form. But you get what I'm saying? They've recruited very well over the years. They've got Alisson, who looks like he could be on his way out. They've got Mamadashvili waiting there. Before that, they had Kelleher, who was a good goalkeeper. Isak, Wirtz, they will do well. They will do well for their club. City is another prime example. I'm not saying that this is the best way to do things, but they've always done that with their goalkeepers. They've always, if it hasn't worked, they go out and buy another top goalkeeper. Always go and do that. When they had Edison, they brought in James Trafford. James Trafford didn't look like he's ready to do the job. They went and got Donnarumma straight away. 2 goalkeepers in one transfer window. It's not, that's how you do business. You go and get Haaland, secure Haaland down. And Haaland is there. You go and pay the money to go and get Haaland. Even Jeremy Doku looks a decent play for them now. So you've got to do things the right way. You bring in a spine. You can go and get your Estevals and your Giovanni Quendas. Go and bring those sort of players in, of course. Go and do that. No one's saying don't bring in young players. But make sure you've got a spine, a core spine of your team that you're happy with. And that you build the team around. The midfield, the two, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez are probably the two that you'd say, yes, guaranteed, nailed down bankers. If you could, every game you'd play them. I said this last week, everything else is fair game. Everything around that team, apart from the two in the midfield, you could probably argue Cucurella starts most games, but he needs to rest. Right back is not nailed down between Gusto and James. Our centre-backs, you could flip a coin and decide who gets those two in the middle, the centre-back. The goalkeeper, you go for Sanchez, but that's because, Petrovic just isn't up to it. The two obviously you might have Cole Palmer in there, but I've said before, I don't think Cole Palmer essentially is a starter for us. He's probably one of the better players in the squad, but I don't think he's a starter. I think Esteval can do a job there. Because he came on the other night and he looked the business in the Champions League. So Neto, I think, is probably another one you think, right, he has to be in the team. The striker option's up for debate. The left side of our attack is up for debate. So we haven't got a core spine. How can you spend £2 billion and still not have a core spine? An actual spine of a team that you build around. You bring in certain players. And then you have other players that you bring in, the younger players that learn off players. It's mental. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. Another Daniel again in the chat. If you keep going down the model, we'll keep falling away from our rivals and the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal and City. I think we already have. I think we've already fell away from them. I think, and this is another question. I think we think as Chelsea fans, we're still the Chelsea of 2015. We're not. We're really not. We're not the Chelsea of 2015 that was dominating the Premier League. I think what we've done, and we've done it well, is we've always plodded along and won a trophy here or there. We won the Champions League. We won the Europa League. We won the Club World Cup. We won the Conference League. And we've massed over it over those years. We got to finals where we should have beat Liverpool. So we've always massed over it and said, actually, that season we were unfortunate in the League Cup, or we got beaten, outsmarted by Klopp in extra time, and a Van Dijk header, made us not win the cup. But we've always massed over it. But we've not been we haven't dominated the Premier League since Diego Costa. We haven't dominated the Premier League. We haven't looked. There's games you go into now, and I can even name the Brighton, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Brentford, all of those games. Maybe not the Manchester United game, but others. The 4 London derbies that we started our season with, they were games that you just thought, actually, a couple of years ago under Jose or Conte, they're 3 points. You'd be more annoyed and shocked if you didn't get 3 points. And we go into these games now, and we're not even sure. We're looking and thinking we might lose this game. I'll take a point against Fulham, against Brighton, against Brentford, against Crystal Palace, against West Ham. I'll take a point. We should beat them. That's the thing we say now. We should beat them. In 2015, it was no, we're winning. How many are we scoring? Is it going to be 3 or is it going to be 4? And that's where we've moved from. We're not this team anymore that is with the Liverpools and the Cities, and we're not there. We're not even. I hate to say this, but we're not even where Arsenal are. We're not. We are the best club in London, but we're not where Arsenal are right now. Arsenal's recruitment this season, they brought in Mascara, I think from Villarreal, Valencia, or somewhere like that. They brought in Gyökeres, who is their striker that they needed. They've got Gabriel and Saliba at the back. Solid at the back. They've got David Raya in goal, who, again, like I said, top goalkeeper, will keep them from losing 3 or 4, maybe 5 games in the season. They've got Saka. They've just brought in Erebechi Eze. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. We're nowhere near them. We're not near City and we're not near Liverpool in terms of recruitment, in terms of performances on the pitch, in terms of seeing games out, in terms of turning a 1-0 deficit into a win. We are far away from there. And I take my own words back, because I was saying a couple of weeks ago when the season kicked off that we should be title challenging. We should be pushing for the league this season. We're 6 games in and I've changed my tune already. I'm not singing off that hymn sheet anymore. Things have changed. My eyes are open now. I can see we're not near the top. We're a cup team, a team that is hopeful to get to the final of the Carabao Cup, FA Cup. And that's where we are, getting the top 4 finish. That's where we are now. That's our level. We've sacrificed trophies for sustaining the buying, selling of players. It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. Daniel in the chat said, I'm not confident against Liverpool. I'm worried about the defence keeping marking the mistakes and error, and Anthony Taylor is the ref. Yeah, it's always difficult. I mean, Liverpool, the good thing about Liverpool is they're still finding their feet based on, and we'll do a proper match preview tomorrow, but they're finding their feet with this new, the signings that they brought in, Kirkes, Frimpong, Isak, Wirtz. They've lost Nunes, who was probably needed to leave, but they've still got Gravenberg, McAllister, Slobbersley. So things have changed for them. They're still learning. Alisson will be out. I think it's a hamstring injury, but they've got Mamadashvili, who I've said is a very good goalkeeper. Isak, I would not be surprised. I mean, a lot of talk has been about Isak over the last week or so, about how inconsistent he looks already based off the back of no preseason. But I don't know. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all, is it? Before we go, actually, let's try and see if we can get a possible lineup. See if we can get a possible lineup for tomorrow's game. Right. This must be the last game. This must be the game midweek. Now, we know there's injuries to Santos. We know, as I said before, Caicedo, João Pedro and Enzo potentially not going to be in the squad for Saturday's game. Let's start with the goalkeeper. I think Sanchez has to start the game. We know that Reece James potentially will start at right back. Or will he? Let's have a look, because we know that Chalobah cannot play. We know it's either going to be Badia Shill, or we know Wesley Fofana, I think, still will be out due to concussion from the Lincoln game. Trevor Chalobah suspended. Badia Shill comes in. I think he's going to have to. I think it's either going to be him or Josh Ashiempong. Probably going to be Josh Ashiempong if it's not Badia Shill. And I'm not happy with this as a centre-back partnership, but I think we're taking Heto, Badia Shill, Ashiempong, Reece James. My other option would be to bring Reece James into right centre-back. Again, I'm not a big fan of this because, you want a natural centre-back at centre-back. And then you bring in, if it allow me to change him, you bring in Ashiempong. And you play it like that. But again, I'm not keen on it, especially if we play 4-2-3-1. You're expecting Ashiempong to do the inverting. I'm not keen on that at all. So I think for me, I'd bring back Badia Shill. I'd put Reece James at right back, Badia Shill. Unfortunately, right centre back due to just injuries and suspensions. Marco Correa at left back. Now, this is where it gets tricky for two reasons. Now, last game before the internationals kick off, I think João Pedro has not been included. I think Esteval's the only Brazilian. Obviously, João Pedro is not going. I think Caicedo, Fernandez, they may be included in their international games if there is any for them, but I think you can't drop. And Santos, I think, is injured. I think Santos is out. So here's where it gets tricky. Romeo Lavia is going to have to come into this game. I think Caicedo starts the game, probably ahead of Enzo. I think Caicedo in this game is going to be more important than Enzo. I think one would have to be rested. Or do they? Or do they? Or do they? Now I'm starting to think myself. I can see Daniel in the chat. There's no way Tariq George is playing up front. There's no way he plays up front. If I was going to do something, and I'm only doing this because I think the news coming out that all three of them are playing through injuries means that there will be changes, there will be rest in this team. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like this. I think we'll see Garnacho on the left. And I think we'll see Buonanotte. Or will we? Will we see him? No, I don't think we will. I think we'll see... I feel like I'm missing someone out here. I'm not. Might have to be Buonanotte. I'd probably go with that. I think that's our best option. That's if Enzo Fernandez is not fit enough to play. If Enzo is fit enough to play, I think Enzo would take Buonanotte's role. I think Garnacho will start this game. I'd be surprised just based on what we said at the very start of this with Gittens. And Neto up front, I think, is a better outlet than if João Pedro, again, is not fully fit. I think João Pedro gets a rest. Although he's not in the Brazil squad. He's not going to change. He's not in the Brazil squad, is he? Right. Based on that, I think we'll see that then. I think if he is not in the Brazil squad, João Pedro, which I'm being told he's not, then João Pedro would get the nod for me in this game because he's got an international break that he's not involved in. Time to recover, time to try and get himself back to full fitness. Neto, I think, is again more effective as much as he can play off the left-hand side and the right-hand side. I think we need a strong squad. This is a Liverpool team, again, that you can get to. Galatasaray have done it. Other teams have done it and made it difficult for them in the league so far. So I think at home, if you want to be in that conversation for top four, you've got to beat teams like Liverpool at home. Anfield is a totally different conversation, but at home, you have to beat Liverpool. And off the back of that result they got midweek against Galatasaray, that the 1-0, they're going to be looking for blood. They're going to want to improve on their performance, but we can deal with them. And if it is Isak, if XTK can't play and it is Isak, we've got to close everything down. We're going to do a proper preview of this tomorrow, but I think early indications would make me go with this lineup. I would go with that lineup because we're struggling at the back defensively, so I think we need two good players. Lavia's got to have a big game. Didn't play midweek, so he's had a full week rest, which means you would like to think he's going to play tomorrow. Buonanotte is probably the biggest question mark in the attacking areas for me. Do you bring over Esteval here, Neto goes to the right, and you bring Garnacho or Gittens in? But we'll see. We'll see what comes of the press conference tomorrow. But that is kind of what I'm thinking. Early indications for my lineup tomorrow versus Liverpool on Saturday. Now, we will be doing a match preview for that properly tomorrow. Big up Daniel in the chat. Thank you very much for being involved today. If the ownership does not want to change the model or be blue coat out, I can see why people are. I can see why people are blue coat out, and I don't think they changed the model. I think once you've gone this far down the road with the model is the model. It would take a lot of unpicking and undoing to rectify the mistakes that they've made over the last 2 years. If this was 6 months, the second window, for instance, into the model, they're 3 years in now. I think they have to continue with this model of buying young players, selling on players, making profit off them, and just scraping top four, maybe get a trophy at the end of the season. I think that is the way that the club want to go now, the direction. Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez should not go to international football. They should have rest time, recovery from injuries. You'd like to think so. The old tricks of certain players pulling out injuries, talking Liverpool, Manchester United of my time growing up, they used to do that a lot, where they would basically say that they were injured, they weren't able to go on international duty, and then the next game you'd see them miraculously back in the Premier League. So if Chelsea have got any common sense, they will do that for Caicedo and Enzo to allow them time to recover. But we're going to end the stream there. We're going to be back tomorrow. Daniel, big up yourself for being in the chat today and also for subscribing. Don't forget to hit the Linktree link. And as I said at the very start, make sure, because YouTube are messing up channels all over the place with the algorithm. So unless you hit that like button or you subscribe, not many people are going to see this Chelsea content. So if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the like button, let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll be back tomorrow with the match preview for Liverpool on Saturday. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll be back tomorrow.